Your frame. What should your frame be when talking to a girl? And this is an absolutely critical question in game. What should your frame be? I'm actually going to open this to you guys. I want you guys to suggest some frames. What do you think are good frames? Or I kind of ruined it a little bit because I was going to say, what do you think is the frame? Which is going to be a trick question, but I've said what are good frames. So I already gave you a little bit of a hint. But what do you think are good frames, not a good frame? Okay, cool. Yeah, assuming attraction, I am enough. Yeah.
I like your look, but I don't know about your personality yet.
Cool. So I will call that interested but not sold. Right? I'm interested but not sold. That is a great frame as well. I assume attraction, I am enough, I'm interested but not sold. Yeah.
My life is amazing and you're lucky enough to be in my life.
Cool. Yeah, so that's in and of itself well spoken, but the more general frame of that is I am not a burden, I am an offer. Right? You're talking to me as a privilege, talking to me as an opportunity. Right? And this is huge for a lot of guys because a lot of guys are like, oh, I don't want to interrupt, they're in the middle of something. Right? If you were in the middle of something and the hottest girl you'd ever seen in your entire life came up to talk to you, would you be like, fuck off, hot girl, we're in the middle of something? I mean, there are some things where maybe you would, but like for the most part, you'd be like, all right, we'll talk to you for a minute. We are in the middle of something, but you have my attention for 30 seconds, hot girl. Right? That's if you're a badass. Otherwise, you'd be like, oh, yes, goddess. But anyway. All right, what else? What other frames? Yeah. Yeah, okay, cool. So that goes into the interested but not sold, right? Like, especially because if you attracted, it's a paradox. Right? Sorry, if you're attracted. If you approached, it's a paradox, right? How are you not needy when you approached her? Right? You clearly committed, right? But it's the same thing as when you walk into a store or walk anywhere where you're potentially going to buy something, right? You made the effort to go there, but that doesn't mean you have to sell yourself to the salesperson. They have to sell the item to you, right? Same thing. You walk onto a car lot, like, hey, I'm interested in buying a car. That doesn't mean you have to start like telling the salesperson, hey, I'm going to fill it with premium gas. I'm going to get car washes once a week. I'm willing to pay way over market price for this, right? You don't do that, right? They still have to sell you, right? Same thing. So like, hey, I'm interested in a car. What have you got? What are its features? Oh, well, I'm concerned about this. Can you knock a little bit off the price? Right? That's the attitude you want to have with the girl as well. Be like, hey, you are attractive enough to get my attention. That makes you one of about like 5 million girls on the planet, probably more. So you have my attention for 5 minutes. What are you going to do with it? What is a frame? A frame is your view, the lens through which you're viewing the events of your life or the events of an interaction. Right? It's not the events themselves. It is your opinion, your perspective on those events, which then changes the meaning of those events. Okay? So if a girl comes up to you randomly in the club and goes, you're weird. I don't like the way you're dressed. How do you interpret that? Do you interpret that as, oh God, I don't belong in this club, I should go home? Or do you interpret that as, this girl selected me to come talk to out of all the people in this club I clearly got on her radar, and she wants something from me. But this poor girl can't just come up and say, I like you, because that would be slutty. She needs help. Right? Which interpretation are you going to adopt? Right? And which interpretation is more true? Right? Or even say that like a girl just gives you a random compliment and leaves. Right? Like, oh, I love your shoes, but then is walking off. Right? A game mentor of mine years and years and years ago, his response to that was like, he says, I like your shoes. Right? Like, no, you don't. You're attracted to me. Right? Which I actually think that's a little too blatant, but the frame is right. The frame is absolutely right, because that is why she's saying that in most cases. Or when a girl says, hey, take our photo. Legitimately, a lot of times girls just want someone to take a photo. But they do actually screen a little bit for who they ask. They don't choose like the weird, creepy guy to take a photo. They choose some guy who looks like cool and normal, and at least like they wouldn't mind interacting with him, right? And so taking the photo thing, that's a whole other thing. It's a bit of fool's gold, and it's a pain in the ass to deal with. But it is an opportunity, right? The girls are saying, you are at least selected enough that I don't think you're going to steal my camera, and I don't think you're going to be weird and creepy after taking the photo. So you're at least a little bit pre-selected in that situation, right? But how are you going to take that? Are you going to take that as, oh, these girls are trying to use me, or oh, these girls thought I was chill and whatever, right? Now again, there's the technical issues of how to deal with that situation, but that's aside to this conversation. Well, the frame I like to have, I call it like the hopeless romantic frame a little bit, is like, I am a hopeless romantic. I believe that there is a woman out there that is beautiful, number one, but also the longer I spend with her, the more I'll be attracted to her, and the more she'll impress me. Unfortunately, I meet the women in the real world, and I'm just constantly disappointed. Like, they just can't seem to live up to this high bar I have. But I still believe against my better judgment, that you may be that one that finally stands out. You'll probably disappoint me, though. Right? So that's a frame that I have. It's kind of a few baked in there together. Okay? So these are all great frames about yourself, about the interaction, sort of holistically, right? But within the interaction, what I want you to do to develop attraction to some extent, but also more importantly to progress the interaction, to move it forward. Because one of the biggest sticking points I see in guys is having the conversation to nowhere. Boot camp students? Yes. Having the conversation to nowhere. All right, you go in, you chit chat, it looks really good, the hot girl's into you, and then 5 minutes later I see it petering out. All right? You're not sparking enough attraction, number one, but even when you do spark initial attraction, not taking it anywhere. So all of those frames about you and who you are relative to the girl and you have value, those are all great. But within the interaction, I'll take more questions at the end. Within the interaction, I want you to assume a frame that, if true, would lead to sex. Okay? Assume something that, if true, would lead to sex. And some of these have that baked in, right? I'm amazing, it'd be a benefit to you to be in my life. If that's true, that might lead to sex, right? But there's also frames like, sex is normal and natural, right? Part of your game should be an assumption that it is normal for girls to sleep with you. Not just to be attracted to you, not just to see you as a valuable person, not just to want to marry you and experience the world with you and stuff like that. You should have as part of your frame, girls want to fuck you. Girls like sex, right? Pop quiz. When you guys have sex with girls, I hope the answer is this way. I hope the right answer. When you guys have sex with girls, who makes more noise typically? Yeah? Usually the girl. Anybody who's making a lot of, maybe some of you guys go buck wild, I don't know. But like, for the most part, she's the one making more noise. She's the one getting more into it. She's the one that's just like losing herself in the moment more than you probably are, right? Right? Which, it's okay to lose yourself in the moment more than you are also probably. But the point is, girls do like sex tremendously. And think of it this way: there's this kind of perception that like the guy is pushing for sex and the girl's like resisting that, and that's the way of nature, and that actually is the case biologically across most animal species, or male female depends on who's nurturing the egg and stuff like that. But whatever has the equivalent female role is usually the more resistant party throughout nature, right? But the reason is that's because that sex has that gender has more whatever the fuck sex and gender. That sex for that sex of the species, sex is a bigger commitment. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm using sex in both contexts in the same sentence, right? And so for a woman in our evolutionary environments, having a child, getting pregnant, is a huge risk. And the risk of having a child and not knowing who the father is a huge risk. So there's all these reasons not to have sex. So given all those reasons, in order for sex to occur and our species to thrive, women have to really, really, really like sex because it's so consequential to them. So that's what you guys need to understand, all right? Now in the modern era where you have condoms and you have the freaking morning after pill and you have abortion, you have all kinds of shit like that, right? And the consequences to sex are far, far, far less, and women still like sex as much as they needed to in that evolutionary environment. Women like sex a lot, okay? Sex is fairly abundant, and that should be part of your mentality. And the mentality that sex is not that big of a deal, if you believe that to be the case, you will have more sex. It will happen for you, right? If you're like, oh my God, I don't know if it's okay to touch this girl. Is she okay with it? Maybe like once she knows me in 6 months, you're not gonna have sex with her on the first date. You're absolutely not, right? Or the second date or the third date or whatever. But if you think I'm an attractive person, she's an attractive person, when two attractive individuals of a species get together, it is natural for them to mate, right? If you have that as part of your mentality, that's going to help as well, right? That's a frame that, if true, would lead to sex. The frame that you're the selector, that you're the one picking, it's another frame that, if true, would lead to sex, okay? So I want you to have all these positive frames about yourself, but I want them to be sexually relevant. Here's a fun kind of like play frame you can do, a fun approach. Everybody should try this approach at least once, all right? Go up to a girl and walk up and just pretend she's your ex-girlfriend. Like, obviously you've never met her, but just walk up and just start acting like she's already your ex-girlfriend. And don't be like, hi, excuse me, you're my ex-girlfriend. No, right? Act like you actually would if she was your ex. Go like, oh my God, fucking hell, it's so random to see you here. Like, you're literally the last person I was expecting to see. Shit, how long has it been? My goodness. You look good though. I heard you'd gained some weight and stuff, but you're looking good. Yeah. All right. No, this is like awkward but cool. I'm glad I saw you because there's some stuff There's some shit I wanted to talk to you about. Do you have a minute? I know it's a little awkward given how we ended though. Are you okay with things, or are you gonna break into tears on me? Not today? Okay, good. Now he's playing along. Perfect. As soon as she's playing along, you've got her, right? We're more you may get him playing along right away, or oftentimes you'll get like, hi, do I know you? Like, who are you, right? And then you're gonna have to play through that. Here, play that real fast. Do like the do I know you?
Do I know you?
Oh my God, really? Like, I know it ended badly, but like, you don't have to go there. Like, we can be grown-ups about this, right? Again, you play it out until eventually, as soon as they crack, as soon as they start playing the frame that they actually are your ex, you're golden, right? And some of the most fun sets I've ever had, like, we're doing that. I don't recommend you do that every single set or use it as a crutch, but it's an incredible exercise for frame control. And if you do get into the interaction and you accepted the frame and she's accepted the frame that she's your ex, and now you're like having like a drink to reconcile or a drink to, whatever, go over things, within that frame, you guys have already slept together. Right? If she's your ex, you've already slept together, right? And now you're acting like people that have slept together, that have a history, that have all that emotional stuff, right? Now all you need to do is build the comfort, right? Makes it much easier. So that's a fun thing to do. But the point is, it's a frame that if true would lead to sex, right? If she is your ex and you're having and whatever issue you broke up over is not currently an issue, why wouldn't you have sex? You clearly like each other. You've clearly had sex before, right? It's a frame that if true would lead to sex. Kind of a weird one, but it works, okay? So frame matters a lot, and frame matters a lot to attraction, right? And this comes up in like your opener, right? If I come like, hey, sorry, I don't want to bother you. I know you're in the middle of something. Are you busy right now? You've already screwed yourself over 4 different ways, right? Whereas you're like, hey, excuse me. I saw you looking. I just wanted to take the burden off and just introduce myself. How you doing?
Nice to meet you.
Right? Different frames by far. Does that make sense? Right? Or if you want to take like very, very cocky frames, again, these are frames I want you to use maybe occasionally for practice. I want you to understand them more. I don't want these next 2 things to become your default openers by any means, but you can use them as educational tools. Right? Here's an opener you can use as an educational frame control tool. Hey, excuse me. I just saw you over here and I was wondering if you'd by any chance noticed how incredibly attractive I was yet.
Oh my God.
Right? It's a frame you're just inserting something cocky just to get things started. Right? Or another one. Excuse me, hi. Are you shy?
No.
Are you sure? Because, I've been here for like 5 minutes. You didn't come over and say hi. You hadn't grabbed my ass. I thought you might be shy. I thought I'd help you out, right? All right, again, these are not what I want you to have as defaults. I don't want everybody in this room to be like, I do the, like, did you grab my ass opener every, like, no, okay? The point is, by practicing these a couple times, or being comfortable asserting a very cocky frame, you're just getting used to doing that throughout all your interactions, right? I don't want these to be your openers. I think they are cheesy openers, but they're good learning tools. And the idea that going up and being overtly cocky, being overtly like, I know I'm attractive, that is a good frame to have underlying everything you're doing.